Your book's published, you've done as much marketing as your wallet is capable of, and now it's time to meet your future adoring fans. But I guess that's the big question. How do you get adoring fans? Well, by going to events, of course. Now, this takes time, but let me help you get started. First, you want to start local. Contact your town library and even surrounding libraries. You see, librarians will love to support a local author in their first book. Now, having your first event at this kind of venue is perfect for those who are just dipping their feet in the event pool. And I say this because you'll get enough interest where you can speak in front of people comfortably. Now, this goes to my next point. If you present your debut novel at a library, you'll want to set up some kind of event lineup and work with a librarian hosting you. Now, here's what I normally do. 1. Introduce yourself. It seems pretty self-explanatory, but this is a step that we can forget, especially if we aren't used to talking in front of people. Give the audience a little bit of background of how you came up with your novel. Maybe you've won awards related to your writing. Add to your credibility about the topic you've even written about. Step 2. Talk about your book. After all, that's why they came here. Sell the book to them by using your descriptions. And if time allows, read a short but catchy section of your book. Keep them wanting more. Step 3. Leave time for questions. As you're talking, people will start forming questions about your book and your writing history. I'd say keep it to 5 minutes max for questions, 10 if you have some time to kill. And sometimes the librarian will tell you how much time they'd like you to use. Step 4. Sign and sell. At this point, you're done with your speeches and Q&A. I'd say it's time to relax, but now the real work begins. Take point number 2 and continue giving the people other elements about your book. Maybe even find a way to compare it to other popular books that are on the market. Now, another location you might want to try is a local independent bookstore. They are also looking for local authors to represent. Keep the lineup for the library the same as for an indie bookstore. Now, the owner of the store may have other ideas too. They even may want you to promote you on social media by doing a live feed of your book reading, if you choose to have one. Now, bookstores will be different than selling at libraries. At libraries, you get direct cuts of the books that you sell, whereas at independent bookstores, the bookstore gets a percentage of what you sell. It's usually a 60-40 cut, so you get 60% and the store gets 40%, but every store is going to have a different setup. Well, what happens is the person will go to the counter at the bookstore with your signed copy and they'll pay for it there. At the end of the event, the owner of the store will then cut you a check for what you made on the books. Now be sure to bring an extra signed stack of books so that the store can sell them for you while you're away. This is what we call consignment. And you can actually go to stores around your state and place your books on consignment without having to show your book there. However, it is better to know beforehand what each store's policy is, as some stores only represent local books or stories written about the state itself. Everything's different. Author events. These are another thing that you can attend. However, this is a completely different ballgame than libraries or bookstore events. When you go to an author event, you'll be completely against every author there. You may come out with 3 sales or maybe even a dozen, but for these types of events, it doesn't matter if you sell books. This is where you want to make author connections. Make friends. Buy their books. Look at their table setups and learn from seasoned authors. It's at these moments where you're not the main focus that you can learn so much about promoting your work. And lastly, Comic-Cons. If you deal with a genre of horror, dystopian, fantasy, sci-fi, and even mystery, This will be a great place for you to connect with more people. In fact, I actually met my cover designer at one. Like with an author event, you won't be the center of attention, but you won't be competing with 20 plus authors either. And if you're lucky, you'll be set off from other authors so you can stand out a bit more. But if that's the case, don't let that stop you from wandering around the con. Keep in mind when you do so to also think of elements you might be able to add to your table for the next Comic-Con. Ask vendors questions. Keep a list of what they say works for them at events. If possible, attend author talks. The Comic-Con will have a schedule for who is speaking when and what the topic will be about. To wrap this video up, I want to give you a list of pro tips that will help you as you begin your event journey. Regardless of the event, bring hand sanitizer. I feel like this goes without saying, but the larger the event, the more germs there will be. Bring a few pens to sign with. There is nothing worse than going to a huge event and your favorite pen dies on you and you're left without nothing. Always be prepared. Bring cash if you're planning to support other vendors that you're next to or in the area. And I say that because not everybody is able to take card payments. If you can, bring your own lunch. Less expensive that way. Explore events outside of your state, but be aware that there are vendor permits and taxes in certain states, and every single state that you look into is going to have something that's a little bit different. Invest in the Square to take card payments. It has so helped me in many ways, and the Square is basically a way for people it's directly attached to your bank account. So if you slide the card, the money goes directly to you. So you don't have to wait for it. And what's nice about the Square is that it comes with either a slide or a chip, or you can get both depending on the card reader you want to use. And what's nice is you can carry that with you wherever you go, even if you're not at an event. And if somebody says, oh, I don't have cash on me, but they have a card, there you go. You can get a sale right there. Refrain, if possible, from accepting checks. And I only say this because you don't know if they're going to bounce or not. And if they bounce, it can be kind of tricky to track down the person to see if they could pay with another payment. And I guess it also can lead to awkward situations. So if possible, definitely refrain from accepting these. Bring a table partner. Whether this be your actual partner, a friend, a family member, it is so important to have someone at the table if you need to take a bathroom break or if you want to wander the event. It's also a bonus if your table partner knows your books so they can talk you up and direct people to you if you're on the floor wandering around. Bring business cards. Pens with your info on it, bookmarks, small things people can take with them that they can remember you by, even if they do buy a book. Pictures or it didn't happen, as the old saying goes. The more you post of yourself at the event, the better. Even taking pictures with those who have bought your book, with permission of course, that will certainly add to your credibility as well. Now, if after all of this you find more tips than I have mentioned here, please share it with your fellow authors. There's always something new to learn in this crazy world of author events.